the Red Hat Enterprise Linux boot process. Boot process is to see, like we will see now, how the machine boots, how this Red Hat Enterprise Linux boots, and what happens and what is the procedure for booting this machine. So it will help us to solve the problem of booting. So whenever you are having a problem of booting, you can have a lot of problem of booting, like when your system is not booting properly. So we can solve this after only when we know how the machine starts and what happens and what files is required and how we can configure it. So modern computer systems are complex combinations of hardware and software, and starting from an undefined power down state to running the system with the graphical login prompt require a large number of pieces of hardware and software to work together. So the following list we are going to see is the high level overview of the task involved of a physical 64-bit system booting Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Now the list for this x86 64 virtual machines. Now we are talking about real machine and also virtual machine. Virtual machines is roughly the same. Both are same. The process is same for both the machines. Either it is physical or virtual, but some of the hardware specific steps are handled in software by the hypervisor. Because in software, in a virtual machine, what we have a virtual hardware. So the virtual hardware specific things will be managed by the hypervisor, which is providing the virtual hardware. Only this is the different. Other than that, the main and overall high level process will be the same. Now what happens when we start the system? What is the procedure? Or what is the process? So first when we start the system, what happens? We switch on the power. So whenever we switch on the power, what happens? The first thing runs is this power on self test. So the first thing which runs is this power on self test. It is also called post. Now this thing is hardware specific. It will run from the BIOS, it will run from the firmware. Until now it is not decided like which operating system is going to be loaded. All the digital machines do this. Either you are starting your PC, you are starting your mobile, you are starting a router, switches, whatever. These digital machines do this, they do post. They run the post from firmware. And till now it is not decided like which operating system is going to be boot. It could be Windows, it could be Linux, it could be any other operating system. Now this post is coming from firmware, from BIOS. So if we want to manage this, then we can manage it from BIOS, and we can manage it by using F2 key. So mostly PCs use F2 key or delete key. So when your machine is starting, if you want to make some changes of your firmware, then you can do it by using delete or F2 key. Mostly F2 key used. So post do what? It do self-test. It do self-test of hardwares which is connected and which is working and which is not working. So if some important piece of hardwares are not working, then it will terminate the boot process and it will stop. Your system will halt and give you the error that this is not detected or that is not detected. So this is the job of post, to check itself all the hardwares whether it is running or not running. Now after doing this, the next step, it is also coming from the firmware, and the firmware searches for the bootable device. Now the second thing is what? Firmware. Our firmware is our BIOS, we can say, or we can say it is our firmware, which is encoded into the ROM chip. So it is still not decided that which operating system is going to be boot. So firmware do what? It searches for bootable device. Now bootable device, it searches based on the sequence which we have configured. It will search the bootable device based on the order we have configured in BIOS. So we configured it in the BIOS that where we want to boot. So by default it boots from the boot sequence is what to boot from the hard disk, then boot from the CD DVD, then boot from the floppy removable drive, and then lastly it will go for the network boot, try to boot it from the network. So this is the default process, this is the default sequence. We can change it. So if we want to change it, then we can change it from the BIOS setting, and for that BIOS setting again we can go to BIOS by pressing F2 or delete key. So if you want to do configure this thing, then again we should go to the BIOS to reconfigure this thing. Now it will search for the bootable device. Now mostly we configure bootable device is what? Our hard disk. So in our hard disk it will look for the partition which is bootable partition. Now the partition, mostly the bootable partition in our hard disk is what? The first partition, if we say. It is the first partition in our Linux, which is SDA1. That is what the boot partition. Now what it do here? Here it will look for the bootable file. That means it is called bootloader. So it will go for the hard disk and look for the partition where it can find the bootloader. So it try to find the bootloader in the hard disk in the partition. So it will try to search the bootable device, and mostly after installation we boot from hard disk drive. So if you have not installed the system and you want to install the system, then we boot from the DVD drive or network drive or removable drive. But mostly if we have already booted, if we have already installed, then we will boot from the hard disk. So we will boot from the hard disk. So it will look for bootable partition. Bootable partition, either it is master boot record, which is MBR. So it could be MBR. So it will look for the MBR, master boot record. Now it is what? If your hard disk type is MBR, then there is a space in the first partition. It is in the first partition, it is called MBR actually. The space is actually 512 byte space, where all the operating system stores their bootloader file. Either it MBR, or we can say bootable partition. For MBR space. So it looks for the bootable partition, and in that bootable partition it looks for the MBR. MBR is called master boot record. Now MBR is a space of this MBR is a space of 512 byte. So it's a space of 512 byte. It is the first sector of our hard disk. So it is the first sector of the hard disk. So it is the first sector of the hard disk where all operating system, I can say all, either it is Linux or Windows, all OS stores their bootloader. So all the OSs store their bootloader there. So they store their bootloader there. So in that space, they store their bootloader, and the bootloader file is actually only 512 byte, so that it can fit into MBR. Now, if we have a modern system, that means this is old MBR type. But if your system is modern system which has EFI boot, if your motherboard is supporting, now if you have UEFI, or we can say EFI boot firmware, if we have EFI boot firmware, then it will look for, now it is no MBR, so it is not MBR space is there, so it will look for the EFI partition. So all the bootable files which is required for all the bootloader, basically it is in EFI partition. So it will look for the bootloader into that EFI partition. So in case if we have MBR, then it will go for the MBR space, that is master boot record. It is a 512 byte space where it can fit only the bootloader file. And if we have a latest new system which is UEFI boot firmware, then it will look for the EFI partition for the bootloader file, and it is having other files also because it is a new system. Now how we can configure this? So again, this step, still no operating system is decided, so still this can be configured by the firmware, that means from BIOS. Now from the location, from the MBR space, from the MBR or from the EFI partition, it will load the bootloader. Now the bootloader is fine. Now it will read the bootloader. Now mostly here it will decide that which operating system is going to be start. So whether it is Windows or Linux, here we will decide that which operating system is going to start. So here our system will load. This is actually the system firmware reads the bootloader. In this case it loads it, or we can say the system firmware reads the bootloader. It reads the bootloader from the disk. So it reads the bootloader from the disk, either from MBR or either from EFI boot partition, and then it passes the control to the system, to the bootloader. That means from in this step, now the firmware is leaving the controls and passing the control to the bootloader file. So from here it will do what? it will pass the control. Then it will do what? It will pass the control to bootloader. Now from here, bootloader will take control. Now here, if you are having a Windows system, so you will see the Windows bootloader. If you are having a Linux system, then you will see the Linux bootloader. Now Windows is a proprietary operating system. You cannot see the bootloader, you cannot manage the bootloader. It is all intact. We don't have, we are not able to see that bootloaders and all that. But here in Linux, we can see the bootloader, and we can edit the bootloader, we can edit the behavior of bootloader also. Now in this RHEL7, what we have here, in RHEL7 we have grub2 as a bootloader. Now in previous versions of Linux, like if we go to RHEL6, it is grub1, that is grub version 1. But now in RHEL7 we have grub version 2 as a bootloader. Now if you go more older than this, like if you go for RHEL5, now then in RHEL5 you will have an option to install the bootloader, or you don't want to install the bootloader. If you don't want to install the bootloader, then it will install the normal bootloader. It is called Lilo, Linux loader. It is very simple bootloader. It was not giving any other options to modify or something. It was just for booting your system. But from RHEL5 we get the option to install the grub bootloader. That means from there they have introduced this grub from RHEL5. So from RHEL5 now we have grub bootloader. But in RHEL5 we had an option to select either to install it or not to install it. But in RHEL6 it is already installed. So no Lilo is there. Lilo is removed. Linux loader is removed, and now we have only grub. So only RHEL6 we had only grub version 1. Now we have advanced version of that. We have a grub version 2. So this grub version 2, this grub gives this grub do what? It boots the, it is the bootloader, and it is responsible for our system to start. Now remember, it is stored their bootloader file. The grub store the bootloader file into the MBR space. Now if it is in MBR space, it is only 512 byte space. So it will store the bootloader file of only 512 byte. Now if that file cannot load the whole system, it cannot consist the script of loading the whole file system, whole operating system. So it is just for kicking and for going for the other steps. And then it is having, actually bootloader is having other files. It has multiple files, and we can see those files also. So those files we can see here in Linux. Not like Windows, we can't see the bootloader. Now in Linux we can see the bootloader, which is grub2. Now where you can see this, I'll show you in the system. So in the system, if we see the partitions, if we check the partition, we can see the first partition. What is the partition? First partition is what? SDA1. This SDA1 is also a boot partition. So why it is SDA1? So that it can have a first sector, because on the first sector it can store the bootloader file, and that is why the boot partition is always the first partition. So this first partition is our boot partition, and if we check where it is mounted, SDA1 I am grabbing, so we can see it is mounted on boot directory. So all the files which we required for booting is under this directory. So if we check this boot directory, if we list the boot directory, we can see this grub2 directory, and in that directory we have all the files related to grub. So when you check this directory, so these are the files for grub, grub.cfg, grub environment. Now this is version 2, grub version 2. If you use the same command in version 1, grub version 1, which is in RHEL 6, if you go to the boot directory and if you find the grub directory, if you list the grub directory, you will see the other files also which loads by the grub. Those files which we don't have to manage, we don't have to edit, those file still shows. It shows the stage 1 file, it shows the stage 2 file, like how the grub runs. So first it runs the stage 1 file, then stage run 1 file. Stage run 1 file is actually the bootloader, and the size of that stage 1 file is actually 512 bytes, so that it can fit into MBR. So it was showing previously, but now it does not show all these things. It is hidden now. We are not able to see that, because we don't have to see, we don't have to modify that. So it loads the stage 1 file, then stage 2 file, and then so on. So it will load the it do its job by loading those files. Now previously we can see those files, now we can't see those files. It is not showing those files because we don't have to see that. Now this grub 2 is now the latest one, and this one we cannot see the stage 1 and stage 2 files now, but if you see the RHEL 6, you can see those files. Now after this, the firmware passes the control to bootloader, and now from here grub will take over and grub will do its job. Now grub will do what? So first, so grub is now loading. It is loading the bootloader, and if you want to manage the grub bootloader, then there is a command called grub-install. What it do? It install or reinstall the grub. So if it is having any problem, then you can reinstall the grub by using grub-install, grub-2-install command. Now what it do here? After this grub is loaded, then what it do here? It will load this configuration from disk. Now it will load. That means grub, or we can say the bootloader. Now the bootloader do what? It will loads its configuration. Load its configuration from the disk. So it will load the configurations from the disk, and it will do what? Present the user with the menu of possible configuration to boot. So it will load the configuration from the disk, and it will do what? It will present the user with the menu to which kernel to boot. So it will load the configuration files, and it will show you the menu that which kernel you want to boot. Remember, whenever we restart the system, we see an option for 5 seconds. 5 seconds is the default one. So we see this option for 5 seconds, and it says that which kernel you want to select. By default, in this RHEL 7 we have two kernels. One is normal one and other one is the rescue one. Let me show you that first. If I reboot this system, you will see that. So what I will do, I will reboot it, restart. Now you will see This is the menu. This is the menu we see, and the menu, it shows two options. One is the normal one, the other one is the rescue one. You can see it is showing here the rescue kernel. So there is two kernels are there. One is the normal one and the other one is the rescue one. So this one, this is the menu, and it shows the menu, and it waits this menu will only hold for the 5 seconds. This is the default option. Let me show you again. If I do it again reboot, you will see the 5 seconds here, and if I don't do anything, then it will start the default one, the one which is selected here. And if you have multiple other OSs, if you have installed multiple kernels here, then you can see all those kernels option. Now in this Linux system, it is, if you want to do the multi-boot operating system, like Windows, you do what? You install multi-boot operating system. In single system, you install multiple different operating systems. So for that, what you do? You basically install the different operating system, totally different operating system. But here in Linux systems, you don't have to do that. You just have to install the kernel. The other things will remain same. Suppose if you want to do multi-boot, then you don't have to do it like separate. You can do it separate, but you don't have to. You can just change the kernel. For example, suppose in Windows, I want Windows 10 also for a client one, and I want to install server also. I want to install Windows 16 also, 2016 also, in the same machine. Now what I will do? I will use multi-boot. In one drive, I will install Windows 10, and in other drive, I will install Windows Server 2016. But basically, when you see the graphical thing, both of the operating system look same. That means Windows 10 and Windows 16 Server both uses the same graphical interface. Same everything. Only what is the difference between those two operating system is the kernel. That Windows 10 kernel does not support the large amount of hardware, but Windows Server 2016 kernel supports large amount of hardware. Other than that, the rest of the whole thing is same. Everything is same. Only a small minor difference. Now what? For only that, you need to install a separate operating system for using both, for doing the multi-boot. Now if it is the case here in Linux, then what we can do? We can just install the kernel. Like I install one operating system and I get the graphical interface, I get the binary, graphical, everything I get it. Now I don't have to reinstall again. I just change the kernel. I will install again the next kernel. Only the kernel I will install. And what? I will install only the kernel which I need, and when I reboot, I will get the option here to select which kernel I want to start. So if I select client kernel, so it will install the client kernel, it will start the client kernel with the all other graphical interface. It will remain same. Then if I select server kernel, then it will start the machine with the server kernel and using the same graphical interface. So we don't have to install the operating system separately and in different hard disk and all that. We can just install the kernel. And even you can do what? You can go to kernel.org, where you can find the different kernels, where you can compile the kernels to your use or your according to your requirement. Like you want which you want which hardware support, you want which processor, how many RAM, whatever you want. You can design your kernel, you can compile your kernel. You can go to kernel.org and you can find there different kernels you can download, you can compile, and you can design your own kernel. You can compile your own kernel and you can install it. So that is how you can do it here in Linux. Now these options are given by grub. We can see this kernel menu is given by the grub, and grub's specialty is also this. If you read here, it says use the up and down arrow key to change the selection, then press E to edit the selected items, or even C for command prompt. It will also provide the command prompt to manage something if your system is having some problem. And it is giving you what? E option to edit the parameters of these kernels. So we can edit some parameters here with using E option. For example, if I select this kernel and I want to edit something with this kernel, so I will press E. Now when I press E, it shows me the configuration files of the grub, and it shows here these configurations, and I can change these configuration. If I like, then I can change something here. So these configurations are coming from what? Our disk. It is coming from our hard disk, and it is coming from our boot partition. It is coming from the grub configuration file. And here also what it is doing here, it is giving you the option here to press Ctrl X to start. Ctrl X, that means whatever changes you do here, you will start the system with that changes. But remember, the changes what you do here, it will not be permanent. It will be only for the current boot. That means it will go for only the current boot. It will not remain permanent, because these changes will be permanent only when you do it in the main configuration file. Other than that, it will only change temporarily. So if you want to make some changes, temporary changes, then you can do this here by using this, by editing directly here, and then you can press Ctrl X to start with that changes, or Ctrl C for command, and or escape, press escape to discard the edit and return to the menu, or press tab, list possible compilation. That means when you press tab, it will also do autocomplete. So this is the menu. If you see the menu, I will show you where it is coming, from which file it is coming. So let us start the machine first. So I will select the first one and start. Okay, now it is starting. So these configurations are coming from the configuration files of grub. So I will show you where it is coming. And where you can do the changes. So if you want to change the menu entry or anything you want to change permanently, then you have to change it into the main file, the configuration file, where those changes are coming from. So first, the files are under boot directory, because this is the boot partition, and in that partition we have this grub directory. So in that grub directory, if you go, you have this file for grub configuration. So it is loading all these files, and in this file is the main configuration file it is loading. So if you see the file, you will see those menu which we have seen at the booting time. So first you should read this. What is it saying here? Do not edit this file. That means first it is saying you should not edit the file. So if you want to edit the file, if you want to make changes in this file, then you can do changes, the script, you can do the changes of the script inside this directory, or you can change the setting from this default setting file. So this is the two options to change this main configuration file, but this file is not directly changeable. You should not do any changes, because these changes are coming from the scripts under this directory. So if you want to change anything, then you should change under this directory. Like for example, these settings, and you can see it is a script. Basically it is the script, and if you know the scripting, then maybe you can do some changes, but it is not recommended and it is not recommended to change directly in the file, in this file. So this settings are coming from this file. If you see, it is beginning from etc grub.d directory, and in that D directory we have 00 header file, and these settings are coming from this file. So it is reading the settings from this file from here, and then all these settings are coming from there, and then it is ending here. It is ending here. You can see it is saying ending the setting here. Then it is reading the other file. It is reading now the other file from there, from the same directory, and then it is ended here. There is no configuration in that. Then it is reading other file from the same directory. It is having a small configuration, and it is ended here. Then it is reading this file. Now this file, which is 10_Linux, is having the main menu, and this is the menu entry. This is the menu entry which we saw, which we have seen in that when we started the system, and it was waited for 5 seconds, and that 5-second setting is here. If you can see, it is set here for timeout of 5 seconds. Timeout of 5 seconds for the menu. So first file decides the style and type of the menu, how much time it will wait, and this file gives you the setting for the menu, that what menu entry you will see. So it shows us 2 menu entry. So this is the first menu entry, where you will see this name of the kernel. You can see this name of the kernel, and if you select that kernel, if you press that kernel enter, if you press enter, so it actually shows with this settings. So when you press that enter there, if you select this kernel, then it will do these settings, it will load these settings. And if you select another kernel, you can see there is another menu entry. So if you select this kernel, which is rescue, you can see the name. So it will start doing this, it will load these settings, and then the setting is ending here. Now these menu entry, these settings also we have seen when we press the E button. When we press the E button there, E key, press E, then it shows us these settings to change. It shows us these settings, and we can change those settings. Now what are these settings actually? These settings is to load the kernel, and how to load the kernel actually. So if we select this kernel, so our grub will do what? It will load the kernel according to these settings. So it will load actually 2 basic files, kernel file and init ramfs. So first, if you see, it says load videos, set these, then load zip files, zip input output, then part as MS-DOS file system, XFS file system. Then here it is the important setting, is setting the root file system. Now because remember, our system is not started, and it has not decided that what is the partitioning, like how much partitions we have and where is these partitions are mounted and anything. Our system grub does not know anything, but still remember the first partition is the boot partition. So what it do here, it sets that boot partition first. That means first it needs to load the bootable files. So where it will find the bootable files? So it will show you that here it is finding the bootable file in HD0. HD0 is your first hard disk. Now we have the first hard disk, we have only the hard disk. So that is the hard disk which we have installed the system. If suppose I have 2 hard disks and I have installed the system into second hard disk, then it will show here HD1. But right now we have only 1 hard disk, and it is installed we have installed the operating system into that. So it is showing SD0 here. Now this decides the hard disk first, and then it is deciding the partition here, DOS partition 1, and that is what our boot partition. In case somebody changes this, misconfigured this, then your system will not able to find the bootable file, which is kernel file or initial RAM-FS file. Now in that case, system is not able to boot. Now in RHEL 6, it was the problem. If it is mistakenly changed, then the system was not booting. Now for that, in RHEL 7, what they have done, they have introduced this loop here. Now what this loop is doing is actually searching for the boot partition, and if it is not finding here, then what it will do, it says then what it says, if it is searching for floppy file system UID and it is setting root ID here is equal to, it is giving again the hint. You can see here, hint from the BIOS is again here. So if somebody mistakenly changed this, then it will find it from here. And if it is normal partition, MBR or EFI, then it will go for this one. And it will go for this bare metal also, if it is loading from the we can say backup. Now again it is giving you hint here again, the same, first hard disk, first partition. And in that case, if you have not got it from here, then you can use this, it can be loaded from this UUID. You may change these values, but the UUID will not change. Else again it will search for floppy, other file system, and again it knows the UUID. So because of this loop, now it is difficult to lose the partition, it is difficult to lose the boot partition. So if you change this value also, if suppose I change SD1 here, my partition, my installation is SD0 in SD0, but I change it to 1 here, so it will not give you problem, because there is a loop and it will find it from here. So in any case it will do fine, if only if I change everything here, then it will not find the bootable file. So here it sets the boot partition first, and then in that boot partition, that is what is the boot partition here? So in the first hard disk, first partition, and that is our grub partition. If we see, and our grub partition, our boot partition is mounted on boot. So in this you see these files. So what it do here, it will load this Linux 16 is actually for loading the kernel. This is the command to load the kernel, and this is your kernel file, VM Linus -3.10.0 version and all that. And you can see here in the boot partition, this is the file. So this is our kernel file. So it is deciding the kernel file, which kernel file is to load. So when we select this menu entry, so it will load this kernel. And in case if we select this rescue one, then you can see that settings are same actually. All the settings are same till here. If you see, all the settings are same till here. Only what? It is loading the other kernel. The other kernel file is this 0.0 rescue, which is also under the same partition. This is the rescue kernel. So if we select the normal kernel, it loads this kernel. If it is not loading, then we can load this rescue kernel. Rescue kernel is there for only backup. Like if your system is not running, if this kernel is having a problem, or somebody is deleted the file from here, then it will not find the file and your system will not start. Remember, if it is not find the file, if it is someone delete the file, you can delete the kernel file from here, because now it is not used. Once it is loaded, then it is not used. So now it is not running, so we can delete this file. So if it is not present, corrupt, deleted, then you can start your system by rescue kernel. After loading the kernel, it loads with the different options also. Like the kernel, with the kernel, it's loading these options. It's loading these options like it is like a features or commands. Same as for the normal kernel also. Setting the root system files, root file system, then it is saying read only, it is mounting as a read only. Then crash kernel dump is auto, set to auto. RHGB set to quiet. RHGB means Red Hat Graphical Boot. So when we are having a graphical boot, it will not show any information. It loads quietly. So if I remove this setting, then what? It will load quickly. It will show whatever it is loading. So if I remove this setting, it will show me what is loading, what is not loading, everything. By default, it is there to load quietly. So it will load quietly. That does not show anything. Then it is also setting the language options here, and also we have many other options which we can run with the kernel. And when we do edit the kernel at the boot time, so we can do what? We can actually change these parameters with the kernel. So whatever the parameter we want to run, whatever we don't want to run, we can add and remove from here. We just give a space after this and we can add our parameters. So we can add multiple parameters. There is lots of parameters, like you can set firewall, you can enable firewall, disable firewalls, configure IP, you can enable service, change settings, you can do lots of things. So with the kernel, we can run multiple parameters. By default, it is running these parameters. Now, after loading the kernel, it loads the initial RAMFS. This initial RAMFS is for the normal one, and for rescue one, it is having initial RAMFS for rescue. And both the files are here in this same directory. We have normal RAMFS and also the rescue RAMFS. Now what this RAMFS do? So this RAMFS do what? It actually provides the temporary file system. Temporary file system, that means, remember, our system has not started and it does not know all the hardwares because it does not have any drivers for those hardwares. So for kernel to initialize those hardwares, it needs the drivers. It needs the driver files. Now there is no driver files because the driver files are under the dev directory, and the dev directory has not mounted because there is no file system we have mounted here. Our system does not know that which partition is to be mounted on which directory. So it does not know anything. So what is the required compulsory or basic hardware drivers? It needs to execute your system, to start your initialize your system. Now those things are under our main partition, under our main directories. We can say that it is under dev. Now these are not available till now. So what we get the initial RAMFS. In this initial RAMFS, it is basically the temporary file system. Temporary file system, that means it has all the basic file systems of this. It has dev, it has etc, it has mnt, it has these proc, run, basically run directory. So it has all these directories in this initial RAMFS file. So it loads into the system with the temporary file system, so that kernel can boot and can execute the hardwares, initialize the hardware by using the basic drivers from this initial RAMFS. So what happened here in this stage? After loading the boot configuration from there, presenting the menu, and when we selected the kernel, so what it do here? After we select the kernel from menu, it will load kernel file, which is VM Linus, and init RAMFS, or we can say initial RAM file system, that is called init RAMFS. file from disk. Then after we get the initial RAMFS where we have all the temporary drivers and all that, then what? Bootloader's job is finished now. Now bootloader will the boot loader will pass the control to kernel. Now it will pass the control to kernel. Now from here the kernel will take over. Kernel will take over, and with the other options, like we have added into this kernel with any options specified on the kernel command. So it will pass, the bootloader will pass the control to kernel. So we have seen till now this bootloader passes the control to the kernel. Now next we will see in next part.